Good morning. How are you all? Hope fine. So you have now received the date for the midterm examination or PT2. So listen carefully. We are going to have only the chapters which we covered after PT1. So very soon we will provide you the syllabus as well. Okay. And the mode of examination that we have not decided yet. Let us see. So history chapter number 6. It is there in the examination. So I am going to complete it today and also sending the question answers so that you can do your preparation for the examination at the earliest. Okay. And we are going to study or we are going to continue part 2 over here or the second part. In the first part, we studied about, the chapter says about the weavers, iron smelters and factory owners. And we studied about the introduction of Indian crafts and industries. So in those days, in 1700, they concentrated on two types of industries. One is textile industry, as another one is iron and steel industry, wherein we studied about the textile industry by different names, like different types of textiles like muslin, then also bandhana, or I can say bandhani, or chint, then calico, etc. One more is there, that patola. Okay, patola is a type of work, or I can say sari, woven mainly at Surat, Ahmedabad and at Patan. Okay, and very famous in Southeast Asia. Then we studied about Indian textiles in European market as well as the Calico Act. The use of chint is banned in England in 1720s. Yeah, and that act is also known as Calico Act. Then we studied about the introduction of different engines. It may be the invention of steam engine by Richard Arkwright in the year 1786 and the spinning jenny by John Kay in 1764. And our next topic was who were the weavers. Okay, weavers belong to the communities that specialized in weaving, and that also they preferred hand loom weaving. So it wherein this occupation associated with the village people, as well as it provided livelihood to the number of people or the millions of people of India. Now let us move on to the decline of Indian textiles. Decline मतलब धीरे धीरे खत्म होना. Okay, नाश की तरफ जाना. That is called the decline of the Indian textiles. The development of cotton industries in Britain affected textile producers in many ways. We have studied that when the chint was banned in England in 1720s, they found an alternative method, isn't it? They tried to imitate the image of chint in an plain cloth, okay, unbleached cloth in England. That is what alternative method. When something is stopped, you have to find out an alternative, and they did that. And see the same thing, the development of cotton industries in Britain, it affected the textile producers in many ways. So because earlier they used to import many things from India, now that import has many things from India, the Europeans they used to import, now the import is now stopped, or export from India, the textile export is stopped from India. By the beginning of the 19th century, English made cotton textiles ousted matlab bhagana, Indian goods from their traditional markets in Africa, America and Europe, wherever the Indian clothes or textiles were sold out. So India had a big, or you can say huge market in Africa, in America and in Europe, and wherever the Indian goods were there, in everywhere this Britain people or the English made cotton textiles were occupied सो ओके एंड इंडियन गुड्स वेर आउटस्टेड मतलब भगाया गया, मतलब उनको वहाँ से मार्केट से हटा के उनका जो अपना जो प्रोड्यूस किया है और अपना जो उन्होंने जो प्रोड्यूस किया है कॉटन टेक्सटाइल उसको रिप्लेस किया. You want cotton clothes, African people? Don't. Yes, we will provide you. Why you are importing from India? So इंडिया से बहुत ज़्यादा मार्केट अफ्रीका, अमेरिका और यूरोप में था एंड वो सब जगह में उन्होंने अभी अपना बनाए हुए चीज़ उसको रिप्लेस करके और इंडिया को हटा दिया गया. English and European companies stopped buying Indian goods. Of course, now if I am ready to get supply from another side, then why should I import from India? So English and European companies, they stopped buying Indian goods. What happens? Now by 1830s, the British cotton cloth flooded Indian market. उल्टा हो गया now. In 1830 में क्या हो गया? The ready-made cotton clothes, they came to Indian market. Okay, earlier the case was different. From India, the things were sold in Europe, Africa and America. Now from the Britain or from the England, now the clothes started coming to India. Thousands of rural women who made living by spinning cotton thread were rendered jobless. Now what happened? When in the market already the ready-made goods started occupying the market, so what happens? The people, those were engaged in the job of weaving the cloth, now they are jobless. Why? Because earlier there were demand from the Indian people for the cotton clothes. They used to give order, and according to the order, these rural women, they were supplying or they are fulfilling the order by weaving or by stitching, etc. Now such type of order has stopped. Why? Now everything is available in the what? In the market. From where? Is a ready-made one, and it's from Britain. Say for example, nowadays if there are the cloth markets, shops are there in the market, but if you go and see their business, if you ask them any question regarding how the business, how is going on, what they say, अभी तो क्या ऑनलाइन हो गया, ऑनलाइन होने के बाद we are not getting that much profit. Now if I want any material or any kapda or anything ready made, then I prefer online, you can say purchase, rather than going and searching and wasting my time. So wherein sitting at home I have a huge options wherein I can choose the quality or the material of my choice according to my money, isn't it? Now everything you have choice. But in those days what happened? See, these rural women, they used to spin, they used to weave, they used to make the garment and all. And it was a long process. Now the people, they have an option. Now from England, the goods are cotton textiles are ready in front of them. Rate comparatively cheaper. Okay, then why? The Indians also started purchasing the ready-made goods available in the market. During the national movement, Mahatma Gandhi urged people to boycott मतलब परित्याग करना or say no imported textiles and use hand spun and hand woven clothes. Khadi became symbol of nationalism. Now Mahatma Gandhi felt that Indian people now preferring more and more western clothes or the western woven clothes or garments, and he said that national movement, so when they are all fighting for the nationalism or the freedom of India, Mahatma Gandhi said that all have to boycott मतलब बहिष्कार करना or say no, just like we are saying now no to the Chinese apps. So he said that you have to boycott the import मतलब उनको वहाँ से आना और importing mangwana of the British clothes. And what is the solution for what you have to do? You have to prefer using the hand spun and hand woven clothes. And खादी became the symbol of nationalism. Even खादी कपड़े को अपना एक महत्व होता है, अपना एक स्थान होता है, और that is the symbol of nationalism. Okay, let's move. In 1854, the first cotton mill in India was set up as spinning mill in Bombay. I am saying Bombay. In those days it was called as Bombay. Now it is Mumbai. In 1900, over 84 mills started operating in Bombay. So just 1854, first cotton mill. Then in 1900, 84 mills started operating in Bombay. The first spurt means rise in the development of cotton factory production in India was during the First World War. First World War broke out in the year 1914 and lasted up to 4 years. That means it ended on 1918. And during the First World War, when textile imports from Britain declined, why? The British people, they were engaged in the war. In the First World War, the British people, they were involved. It's a war between England and the opposite nations, and England was playing one of the leading role. Okay, and now their entire concentration is on war. So the import वहाँ से जो आता था कपड़ा वो stop हो गया. Stop नहीं हुआ, decline हुआ. Decline slowly going down. Decline होते गया. And Indian factories were called upon to produce clothes for military supplies. So those were in the militaries and all, they need the military clothes, and for that the Indian factories को कहा गया है, so just start preparing or just start producing the clothes for the military supply. Earlier, the entire lot used to come from the Britain. Now, since the Britain itself involved in the First World War, and the import of the cotton from or the textile from Britain now started declining, and Indian factories were called upon to produce clothes for military supplies. Next one we are going to see is the sword of Tipu Sultan and the Wood's steel. So we have seen Tipu Sultan, Anglo-Maratha wars and all. Tipu Sultan, one of the strongest, or I can say ruler, before, or I can say who resisted against the British rule, and he died till his last breath. So Anglo-Mysore wars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the Treaty of Seringapatanam and all we have studied in our previous chapters. So the sword of Tipu Sultan and the Wood's steel. Now we are concentrating not about the ruler or the Sultan Tipu. We are now going to concentrate on the sword used by Tipu, that is Wood's steel. That is the name of the steel is Woods. Woods uska naam. WOOTZ. The quality of the sword came from a special type of high carbon called woods, which produced all over South India. So at that time, almost in South India, this high carbon is a special type of high carbon that's called woods. It was produced all over in South India. Indian wood steel fascinated means attracted the European scientist. So this steel, it's a type of steel with a high carbon. Okay, this steel, it attracted the European scientist. The wood's steel making process, which was widely known in South India, was completely lost by the mid-19th century. So what happened in the mid-19th century? The process, this Mysore people or the South Indian people, they know how to process this wood steel, and this process was completely vanished completely lost by the mid-19th century. The sword and armor making, arms and ammunitions, arms making industries with the conquest of India. Armor making industry died. One word is missing. The sword and armor making industries with the conquest of India died with the conquest of India died with the conquest of India by the British, and imports of iron and steel from England displaced the iron and steel produced by craft people in India. So craft people means that the iron and the steel which was produced by the craft people means the गांव का people जो है they were involved in the process of making this iron and steel. How that we are going to see the wood steel को कैसे बनाया जाता था मैंने रखा है. Let's see how it was made, and there is a question answer also how this wood steel was prepared, and this technique was completely vanished by the mid of 19th century, and the conquest it displaced the iron and steel producers of craft people of India. This is Tipu's store. As I told you, it's made up of wood steel, and it's very historically very famous, and I think I have included, but where it is, let us see how this wood steel is produced. If it is not, then definitely I have mentioned in the question answers. See, go through. If there is any question, if there is any problem, you can ask me. I thought that I have included. Let me see. Then abundant furnaces in villages. What do you mean by furnaces? Well, able to see, I'll show you the image first. Furnaces. This is the furnaces. Okay. So many pictures are there related to this. Production of wood steel required. This is highly specialized technique of refining iron. Iron को refine करना होता है. How? By melting. Okay. So this steel it required highly specialized technique of refining iron. By the late 19th century, the craft of iron smelting was in decline. As I told you, that completely vanished. Many people gave up their craft. This is a craft. This is a technique. So all people cannot do. So many people gave up their craft and looked for other means of livelihood. Whatever they were doing this, the people those who were involved in making this process of wood steel, now it has slowly declined, and because of that, people those who were involved in this work, now they shifted to other work because they have to earn livelihood, they have to earn money. ये काम तो अभी बंद हो गया. ये तो पहले मेन एंड विमेन, मेन क्या करते थे, उसको डालने का वो सब चारकोल वो सब डालने का काम करते, आयरन को डालने का सब करते थे, एंड विमेन क्या करते थे, उसको फूंक मारते थे. ओके, फूंक मारने का काम, फूंक मार मार के आपको क्या करना है, आग को आग लगाना होता है. सो वो सब काम विमेन करते थे, और इसलिए बोथ मेन एंड विमेन दे वर बिजी इन डूइंग दिस. नाउ दिस craft itself is of iron smelting was declined, and people ये जो यही काम को मेन धंधा करके या मेन काम करके बैठे थे, उसके ऊपर भरोसा करके बैठे थे, अब उनके लिए जीवन का रास्ता नहीं है उसके अलावा और कुछ और करने के लिए इसके ये तो बंद हो गया, और इसके अलावा क्या करना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज़ वाई दे शिफ्टेड टू अदर वर्क. ये जो काम करते थे, कलाकारी करते थे, जो क्राफ्टमैनशिप करते थे, सब छोड़ के नाउ दे स्टार्टेड शिफ्टिंग टू अदर वर्क, बिकॉज उनको तो काम पैसा कमाना ही है, अल्टीमेटली उनको खाना है, पीना है, सोना है. सो फॉर दैट दे नीड मनी. And by the early 20th century, the artisans मतलब ये craftsmen persons producing iron and steel faced a new competition. अभी उनके सामने एक नया challenge आया, नया competition आया. See, this is, as I told you, furnaces. This is a type. एक type का है. You can see that वो कोल जो burn हो रहा है और ऊपर से iron का जो भी है उधर ऊपर melt हो रहा है. So बहुत इंटरनेट में बहुत ज़्यादा इमेजेस आपको मिलेगा. अबंडेंट फर्नांसेस इन विलेजेस में एक कैसे अबंडेंट हुआ. सो ये ऐसा है. प्रोडक्शन ऑफ वुड स्टील रिक्वायर्ड अ हाईली स्पेशलाइज्ड टेक्निक ऑफ रिफाइनिंग आयरन, एज आई टोल्ड यू, बट आयरन स्मेल्टिंग इन इंडिया वॉज extremely common till 19th century. Then Bihar and central India in particular had smelters in every district. मतलब इतना common हो गया. And the smelting was done by men while women worked as bellows. Bellows मतलब फूक मारना उसको. Okay, to burn the charcoal. ऐसा इसको abandon किया अभी. Abandon मतलब बहिष्कार किया, और यू कैन से डिसकंटिन्यू किया गया. नाउ दिस इज वन मोर इमेज, आयरन स्मेल्टिंग फर्नेसेस. जो मैं बोल रही थी, नीचे से आग लगाना होता है और ऊपर से उसके अंदर आयरन को मेल्ट करते थे, जैसे स्मेल्टिंग करते थे. ओके, एंड ये वाला जो काम है वो विमेन करते थे. सो this is wood steel. As I told you, the sword, it was prepared from this wood steel. Again, it is Tipu's sword only. Now how to produce wood steel, मैंने कहा ये इंक्लूड किया है. It was made in several smelting furnaces in Mysore. आपने देखा अभी smelting furnaces. These are all the images of furnaces. Okay, and the earlier one which we saw. If you see the Google, so many pictures will be available. So the first point is over. The procedure included the mixing of iron and charcoal and storing the mixture in small pots made by clay. Small pots made by clay. So mixture करते थे, mixing iron and charcoal and storing the mixture in a small pot made by clay. मिट्टी का बर्तन में उसको स्टोर करके रखते थे. Steel ingots were prepared by the smelters. Ingot का मैंने देखा नहीं था मीनिंग, सॉरी. Ingot, let us see. Steel ingots were prepared by the smelters through carefully controlling the temperature, and these ingots were used to make swords. मतलब you can say the ball type ingots, मतलब ball ऐसे iron का, and these ingots make swords in India as well as in West and in Central Asia. Iron and steel factories come up in India slowly. विलेज में अगर abandon हो गया तो उसका replacement क्या है, alternative क्या है. So iron and steel factories come up in India. In 1904, Charles Weld, an American geologist. Now who is considered as a geologist? So you have to explore. It's also a type of scientist only, geologist, who works on अर्थ में जो सॉलिड लिक्विड वो जो मटेरियल मिलता है उसको जो स्टडी करता है, इज कॉल्ड एज जियोलॉजिस्ट. एंड जोराबजी टाटा, द एल्डेस्ट सन ऑफ जमशेदजी टाटा, set a modern iron and steel plant in India. So idea is completely what the village people used to follow. Now the setup is big, with big machines and with the highly qualified technicians as well as with the good techniques. Tata, or I can say we'll come to know, in 1904 with the help of Charles Weld, an American geologist, as well as Dorabji Tata, the eldest son of Jamshedji Tata, set up a modern iron and steel plant in India. The Tata Iron and Steel Company, it's also famously known as TISCO, okay, came up in 1912 and began producing steel. So it started, established means what? In 1904 they might have started the process, and in 1912 it has completed and it has set up. The setup was ready by 1912. About 2 years of TISCO, that means you can say 1912 matlab 1914, that is in 1914 the First World War broke out. So imports of British steel into India declined. See, in British steel also declined. Earlier the British steel used to come from Britain to India. Same, the Britain textiles, cotton textiles, they used to come from Britain to Britain to India. Now both the things are stopped. Textiles also stopped and iron and steel also stopped. Why? Britain, it involved in the First World War. It was busy in First World War. And the British Steel India, so imports of British steel into India declined, and the Indian Railways, they turned TISCO for supply of rails. So at that time the Indian Railways, it was laid 1854, the first railway line was laid between Mumbai and Thane, and after this by 1914 that Indian Railways, they required more and more that rails, that patti जो है iron rods type के बीच में जो है, and for that earlier they used to import from Britain. Now that their supply stopped, so now they asked Tata Iron and Steel to supply them the rails. Over time, TISCO became the biggest name within the British Empire. So, within the British Empire, when the British were ruling itself, within a span of years, that TISCO, it became very famous. Now, this is iron. This is Tata Iron and Steel Company, or so this is the first TISCO setup you can see. Okay. सो इसका सिंबल भी है, तो मैंने सिंबल तो yes. In this way I have come to an end of this chapter. Today I am giving you the question answers as well, and in next period, or I can say I will explain you in the Zoom class this particular, as well as entirely I will ask questions, and your instruction, your video must be on. If your video is not on, then you may be removed by the teachers, okay, anybody for that matter, and I will ask you the questions. Okay, questions will be asked based on the video, so please be ready with the with the videos and the related question answers also. And in the next class I will give you assignment 2 of map. So in the meantime, keep learning, keep studying, and keep watching the videos. Thank you, bye bye, and have a nice time.